the class. So till now we studied 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So in this unit we covered two chapters, chapter 13 and chapter 14. And we saw how a living entity who is supposed to be spiritual, but the living entity gets entangled in the material nature due to three modes: mode of passion, mode of ignorance, mode of goodness. And how to transcend these modes by engaging in the devotional service of the Lord. And we also saw how these modes affect us personally and how we can develop the mode of goodness by practice of Krishna consciousness. This was so far. Let us start by revising a quotation of Srila Prabhupada. Diya Mataji, can you read?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Association with material nature entangles him. In his constitutional position, a living entity is above the three modes of material nature, but association with material nature entangles him in the different modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. Due to the association of these three modes, his desire to dominate the material world is there.
Yeah.
By engagement in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, he is immediately situated in the transcendental position, and his unlawful desire to control material nature is removed. Bhagavad Gita 14:26 purport.
So the control of material nature is through three modes of nature. And as we practice pure unalloyed devotional service, then this control of material nature is no longer effective on the jiva, and living entity is again situated in the pure Krishna consciousness. So this we discussed till last class. Today we will enter into lesson 2 of unit 5, that is chapter 15. This chapter is entitled as Purushottam Yoga, the yoga of the Supreme. Purush means enjoyer. Purushottama means best of the enjoyers. That is the Supreme Personality of God. And yoga means how to connect with the Supreme Personality of God. So in 14th chapter, although we saw how living entity gets trapped in the material nature, in 15th chapter, Krishna gives us the way how to uproot this attachment to the material world. So Krishna is describing the whole system of material world with analogy of a tree, a banyan tree. How this material world is like a banyan tree, and how we cut a tree with a saw. So Krishna is saying here, with sword of knowledge, you have to cut down the tree. So Krishna is giving this knowledge of the material world. In the first 6 verses, he tells how from material clutches we can go to a spiritual world by detachment and surrender. Then in next section 7 to 11, he describes the transmigration of living entities in this material world. 12 to 15, Krishna again reminds us his absolute position of being maintainer of this world. 16, 17, 18, Krishna tells the summary of Vedas and Vedanta, which is the absolute source of knowledge. And last 2 verses, Krishna concludes by telling how knowing Krishna means knowing everything. So this is the breakdown of this chapter. So this chapter, as we discussed, is very important Because attachment to this material world is the cause of suffering for a living entity. We discussed this before also. The analogy of Guru holding the tree. You remember? Disciple tells Guru that Maya is not leaving me. Then Guru runs and catches the tree and tells the tree is not leaving me. Actually, tree has not caught you. You have caught hold the tree. So in the same way, living entity is being attached to this material universe. And because of being attached to this material universe, living entity is suffering. Now, how to get rid of that suffering? By developing attachment. With developing detachment to material world and attachment to Krishna. So when a living entity develops that detachment to material world, then it gets discrimination. What is good, what is bad. So therefore, Krishna is establishing here what is the cause of bondage and how to uproot that bondage. So let us start this chapter with verse number first, 15th chapter, first verse. Okay, Satchidananda Prabhu, please read the translation.
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "It is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upwards and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas."
So basically, Veda, the word Veda means knowledge. And this knowledge is complete knowledge. This is knowledge of the Supreme Lord, this knowledge of the spiritual world, and this knowledge of the material world also. Since we are in the material world, Vedic knowledge also describes about the material world. How it is compared? It is compared to a banyan tree, Ashwatham, banyan tree. And this Ashwatham is upside down. How it is upside down? Urdha Moolam Adho Shakha. Moolam means roots. Roots are upward, Adho Shakha. The roots, the stems, the branches are downwards. Have you seen a tree like that? Upside down tree? Anyone? Anyone has seen
Prabhuji, when we see the reflection we have seen, Prabhuji,
Yes,
the river,
all of
side.
you have seen. When you see reflection of a tree in water, it's upside down. So Prabhupada gave this analogy many times. This material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. You can see the original tree is the spiritual world, and material world is the perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So the topmost of the things in spiritual world, when they reflect in material world, they appear to be the lowest. And the lowest of sense gratification there, it reflects here as the topmost goal for materialistic people. So this is the perverted reflection. Now Krishna is comparing this reflection of desires, reflection of consciousness as material world. Urdha Moolam, the uprooted roots. Generally, the roots are downwards, but here roots are upwards because this world starts from Brahma, which is the topmost universe, the topmost planet. And then it grows towards downwards. Urdha Moolam, Adho Shakha. And as you go downwards, there is different shakhas. Downwards, there are branches. And the leaves are considered to be Vedic hymns because these leaves are the different karma kandas section described in the Vedas. Therefore, leaves are also described like that. And tips of branches are called as senses because on the tip of branches, fruits come. So from senses, we get sense objects. we get sense gratification. So tip of branches and twigs are called senses and sense objects. And then fruits are sense gratification. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. These are the fruits. So like that, with the analogy of tree, Krishna is describing the whole setup of material world. So what did Krishna tell? The real tree is spiritual world. This material world is upside down, perverted reflection of that tree. That means whatever we see in material world also exists in a spiritual world. But that existence is pure existence. Whereas whatever we are seeing in this world is just perverted reflection of this. Now, how to cut down this tree? If we want to cut down this tree, asanga sastrena drinena chatva. If you want to cut down this tree, only one method. We have to cut down this tree with the sword of knowledge. Only by sword of knowledge this tree can be cut. This is described in the subsequent verses. So let us read text 2. Devadev Prabhu, can you read? Okay, before that, just let us describe this tree little, discuss this tree little more. Just 1 second. Okay, can you see my screen? Can you see?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Yes, Prabhu.
So this entire tree is called as material world, and which is technically made of the 3 gunas. As we discussed, the root is Brahmaloka, where Brahma lives. Because the first entity in this material world is Lord Brahma. And from Brahma, this creation starts downwards. So topmost planet, Brahmaloka, is called root of this tree. Now branches. These branches are different planetary systems. These branches are like Devaloka, Gandharvaloka, Kinnarloka, Asura, Rakshasas, Pretas, Bhutas, human beings, cows, horses, beasts, birds, insects, worms, moths, immobile creatures. So all they are which are living in Swaha, Bhuva, Bhuvar, different lokas, these are considered to be branches. Then leaves are called Vedic hymns, because tree becomes attractive with lot of leaves. And this Vedic hymns, because Vedas describe lot of karma kanda activities. If you do yajna, you can go to higher planetary systems. If you worship such and such demigod, you will get this and this reward. So all this flowery language of Vedas, they make this material world look very, very beautiful. Therefore, they are compared to leaves. And the fruits are result of those fruitive activities. What is the result of those fruitive activities? Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Dharma means occupational duties. Artha means economic development. Kama means sense gratification. And moksha means liberation. So under these themes, people work very hard, and the fruitive results, which are called fruits of the tree, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. But the real purpose of the Vedas is not to enjoy these fruits. The real purpose of the Vedas is to understand Krishna, which we will study in the last section of this chapter. Now, why Krishna only compared this with banyan tree? Why not other trees? Anyone? Krishna could have called mango tree or jackfruit tree.
It is gigantic in size.
Okay, it's gigantic in size. Okay.
Its root is upward.
Its root is upward. Yeah, that is the analogy. I mean, even mango tree, if you see reflection, the root will be upwards. Why only banyan tree?
It's a sacred tree.
It's a sacred tree. Okay. Yeah. Varat Krishna Prabhu?
Yeah, because one cannot make out where is the start and where the end of this tree.
Yes. Actually, the speciality of banyan tree is from the branches, another set of roots grow. And when they touch ground, they again they again suck nourishment from the ground. You have seen that? So it's unending tree. More and more branches, more roots will fall from the branches, and then again the tree will flourish from there. So this material world is an unending cycle. Birth, old age, disease, death. Birth, old age, disease, death. Day and night, day and night. Then Satya, Treta, Dwapar, Kali, Satya, Dwapar, Kali, Treta. Like that, it will go on. Then they have different Brahmas, different Manus. It will just go on in cycles and cycles and cycles. Therefore, Krishna is comparing this with a banyan tree. And about the branches, there even segregation within the branches. Like the lower branches are lower species, like human beings, animals, like that. Upper branches are demigods, Gandharvas. So even within branches, there are categorization. And how these branches get nourishment? They get nourishment through the three modes of material nature. Three modes of material nature, they nourish these branches. So like that, this is the small description of this tree. Yes, Namrasita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanapranam.
Dhanyavad.
Prabhu, there's a line in this first verse. This reflection of the spiritual world is situated on desire, just as a tree's reflection is situated on water. Desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material life.
Yes. You see, if there is no water, there is no reflection. In the same way, Raga Dvesha Samuthena, when there is this desire to enjoy, this desire leads to living entities' existence in the material world. Suppose there is no desire to separately enjoy, there will be no material world. Everyone will be in a spiritual world. But since there is this desire to enjoy in the material world, this reflection of a spiritual world appears. So this water is compared to the desire to enjoy. Okay? Yeah. So Devadev Prabhu, please read text 2.
Dhanyavad Pranam Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. The branches of this tree extend downwards and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree has also roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society.
So as you have seen in banyan tree, roots also come from the branches, and they go downwards. Again, they touch the ground, and they increase the area of growth for the tree. So in the same way, more and more sense gratification, more and more interaction with the object of the senses, more roots grow. And that is the cycle of fruitive actions, which keeps on increasing in the material sphere. Okay, let's read this quote by Srila Prabhupada. Okay, before that, yeah, Namrasita Mataji, you have a question?
Yes, Prabhu, another second verse only. The real root is from Brahmlok and the other roots are in the human planetary system. After one enjoys the results of virtuous activities in the upper planetary system, he comes down to this earth and renews his karma of fruitive activities for promotion. This planet of human beings is considered the field of activity.
Yes, because other species are bhog yoni. They just enjoy the fruits of the actions. But human life is called karma yoni. Human beings are responsible for making that karma. See, demigods can't further act karma and go upwards. No. As human beings, whatever pious credits one has gotten to reach to the heaven, that only he will enjoy as demigod. Again, he will fall back as human being. So main field of activities is human form of life. Like animals, sometimes people argue, why can't we eat meat? Tiger is eating meat. Tiger is not responsible for eating meat because that is bhoga yoni. The body is made in such a way that it will eat meat, but still it is just nullifying the previous sinful actions. He is not making more reactions. But as human being, we are responsible for every action. Therefore, the field of activity is determined only for human beings. Other species is just, they're just reaping their crop. But seeds are put in the human life. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Amal Arjun Prabhu?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, see this one aspect of desiring to enjoy. I think we keep hearing this all the time. And out of the 8.4 million species of life, 400,000 is the human. So if we assume that the balance, the different creatures, aquatics, animals, birds, plants, etc., if their level of enjoyment, or if let's assume for this example that they don't enjoy at all, so this humans, we see even humans are suffering so much, and very few percentage of humans are actually in the so-called enjoyment of these. So how do we really understand this? Because if this case is true, that if anyone who comes into the material world are going to enjoy, we see so many people are actually suffering. So there is actually no enjoyment even in the human species. So how do we understand this?
There is no enjoyment, but look at the choice of word of Srila Prabhupada. It's desire for enjoyment. It's the thirst. There is no water, but there is thirst.
Okay, desire. Okay.
Enjoyment is in the spiritual world. That is Anandamaya Abhyasa. But there is desire to enjoy separately from Krishna. That is material world. There is no enjoyment, but there is constant desire for enjoyment. See, that is the race where you can never win, because there is no enjoyment in material world.
Yes, Prabhuji,
Even
yes.
if so, people, I mean, living entity will always seek for enjoyment because it is made of Satchit Ananda. But problem is separately enjoying from Krishna. If living entity want to enjoy with Krishna, eternally living entity can be happy in the spiritual world. But problem lies when living entities separately desire to enjoy. But there is no separate enjoyment from Krishna. Because Krishna is Anandamaya Abhyasa. Ananda comes from Krishna. Now if you separate Krishna, you cannot be happy. And that is the story of material world. So even if some people are feeling they are happy, that is simply illusion. Actually, there is no happiness in material world, but there is desire for becoming happy. Like that.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I think this is, you made it very clear. I think the aspect of desire and separately enjoying with Krishna is what we have to understand in this whole context. So there's no concept of enjoyment at all whatsoever in the material world.
Right.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, is it not worth saying that there is suffering only?
Yes, because see, suppose, I'll give you an example. Suppose somebody tells Dev Prabhu, you eat this ice cream, and after eating this ice cream, you will have to be hospitalized for 15 days. Is that really an enjoyment? Material world is like that. Even happiness in this material world is like that. Okay, you enjoy this karma, But because of enjoying this karma, you have to suffer later. Is it really enjoyment? It is punishment only. Therefore, we can say material world, why Krishna has said dukkhalayam ashashvatam. It is the abode of miseries. So we can't expect happiness in this material world. Okay. Let's read this quote by Srila Prabhupada. Kripalu Keshavi Mataji, please read.
Krishna Prabhu. It is three. Just like if you have to keep yourself, the legs are up and the head down, somebody keeps you like this, how long you will feel comfortable? If somebody takes your legs and touches you, your head down, then it is not very comfortable. So this whole material world is like that. Urdhva Mulam, the Mulam should have been down, but it is up. Therefore, it is uncomfortable. Another explanation is it is a perverted reflection. We have got experience of the Urdhva Mulam. On the bank of a river or the bank of a pond, tree is standing, but the reflection we find that the same tree has become Urdhva Mulam and Adhasakam. So by this statement, Krishna says that this is not real. That reflection in the water of the tree is not real. Real tree is up. Similarly, real enjoyment, real varieties, everything is in the spiritual world. It is simply reflection. It is not fact. Therefore, our enjoyment here is called Maya or illusion.
So there is only suffering and uncomfortable situation due to this material experience of the living entity. So what is the solution? Krishna is giving solution in the next verse. So Usha Mataji, can you read? Translation for 3 and 4.
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, and or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with a weapon of detachment. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial.
So Krishna is saying that don't try to understand this tree in totality. It's very difficult because it's such a gigantic tree and such a complicated tree where the roots are starting, where it's ending. Very difficult to understand. But one thing is certain, that being caught in these clutches of this material world, living entity is not happy. So let us not waste our time in exploring this tree, but let us try to cut down this tree altogether. And how to cut down this tree? With the sword of knowledge. Because knowledge is here considered weapon. The knowledge is considered to be discrimination. Because when you have the proper discrimination, you automatically become detached with detrimental things. Suppose you come back to home and you see a nice freshly cooked pakoda on your table. You're very hungry. You want to immediately jump over pakoda and eat it. But as you were just trying to eat it, your wife comes and tells, no, don't eat it. I have put poison in the pakoda for mouse. Then will you eat it? Just by getting that knowledge, all attachment to that pakoda is gone. This is what knowledge does. Knowledge makes us equipped with discrimination. What is good for us? What is bad for us? This material world where there is no ananda, we are desiring sense gratification. That is sangha. But detachment means asanga. we want to destroy this sense gratification. And when we destroy this desire for sense gratification, when we understand that actually our home is spiritual world, that's what Krishna is telling here, that we should think about a place from where we have never, from where we don't have to come back again, which is free from all these illusions. That place, if we think about, we will not be attached to this material world. And therefore, Krishna is giving here again the hint that think about, put a goal to go back to spiritual world. And if we have that goal, we will not be attached to cheap sense gratification in the material world. But what is the qualification to reach there? What are qualification to go back to spiritual world? This qualifications are described in the next verse. So Shrutidhar Prabhu, can you read text 5?
Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, bewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom.
So some qualifications are given. Who can go back to Godhead? First quality, nirmama, nirmama is not there, nirman. Nirman means, man means pride. Nirman means without pride. So first qualification is one has to become humble and prideless. They should not be proud about material opulence. Nirman. Second is nirmoha. They should be free of absorption in the material universe. Moha means me and mine. Body. This body is mine. Relatives are mine. This country is mine. Bank balance is mine. Nirmoha means one has to be free from this absorption. We may do these activities. We'll take care of the body. We'll take care of the family. We'll do our work. We'll have bank balance. But nirmoha means we will not be absorbed in it. We have to always remember this is not my permanent home. My home is spiritual world. Jita sanga dosha. They should be free from attachment to different other relatives. Jita sanga dosha. Then adhyatma nitya. They should always consider how to progress in spiritual life. And vinivritta kama. One should be free from further material desires. Okay, I'm practicing Krishna consciousness, but then I should not further entangle myself in sense gratification. Dvandva vimukti. We should be equipoised in dualities of this world, like happiness and distress, heat and cold, happiness and distress, honor and dishonor, like that. And amudha. One should learn about the science of Krishna consciousness. If we will not learn, if we will not gather sufficient knowledge, it will be difficult to face the challenges in the material world. So if we simply understand, way of bondage is when one becomes attached to this material world, when one thinks I am this body, and person thinks that I am the enjoyer of this body, he expects honor, respect, sense gratification in this material world. Then who supports his sense gratification? He loves them. Who becomes impediment in his sense gratification? He hates them. That is moha, second step. Then he becomes afflicted with the three modes of material nature. And when three modes of material nature afflicts him, then the dualities of material world also afflicts him. That is the way of bondage. What is the way of liberation? One realizes that he is the servant of Krishna. He is not expecting any honor, respect, or sense gratification in the material world. So naturally, he is free from moha. When he is free from moha and attachment, three modes of material nature will not affect him. When three modes of material nature will not affect him, he will peacefully cultivate his spiritual knowledge. When he will freely cultivate his spiritual knowledge, he will be freed of dualities of material world. And when he is free from dualities of material world, he can fully surrender to the Supreme Lord. So both ways are open to us. We have to just understand that which way we have to take. If we start with the conception that we are enjoyers, we are controllers, we start with this line. And we start with the concept that no, we are servant. Why we need honor and respect? Why we need all this sense gratification? Rather, when we serve Krishna, automatically we will get sense gratification. So like that, if person starts with this servant mentality, then there is no bondage. Yes, Saurabh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam. Prabhuji, I want you to ask one thing. Even if a person who is, or a human or a soul who is trying to, get detachment, but there may be many circumstances in his office where, office is a sales type culture, aggressive sales type culture, where every time your boss is coming and saying, what is your target, why you have not. So every time the atmosphere around the office is around sales and the attachment to the targets and bonus. So in that, every time we are talking about this only, so then how that person can, be in that company, or, how to navigate that culture?
See, there are two ways to look at it. One thing is, this world is not a place for a gentleman, as Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati would say. But another way of looking at it is, look at our acharyas. What they have accomplished, can our really employees in our company accomplish? Like, imagine what Srila Prabhupada accomplished. Can employees in our company accomplish that kind of success even in material world? What Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati accomplished? What Rupa and Sanatan accomplished? What Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accomplished? So they can't even match material aspect of the devotees. So the understanding of this concept doesn't mean devotee doesn't entangle in the activities. This whole discussion is about consciousness. Person has to understand, not for me, for Krishna. Now, why it becomes so difficult? Because from time immemorial, when we are in material world, we have only learned selfishness. Until unless we don't see that my sense gratification is met, why I should work for this? Any person, first he will see his benefit, selfishness. When we talk about Krishna consciousness, we have to replace self with Krishna. And that is the whole foundation of Krishna consciousness. We have to work with same or more energy than materialistics. But the principle is, devotee works for Krishna. And when he has this consciousness, then no more material entanglement. See, if that would be the case, then after hearing Bhagavad Gita, Arjun should have gone back to forest and do some bhajan. But this study encouraged Arjun that no, you have to fight, but you were lamenting because you were fighting for yourself. Now you fight for me, for Krishna. And that made whole concept clear for Arjun to fight. So we have to work when we are living in the material world. People will try to entice us with material benefits. And the whole environment around us may be against this philosophy of Krishna consciousness. But that is what is our fight. Our fight is that we have to replace my centeredness with Krishna centeredness, selfishness to selflessness. That is the whole fight. Okay? So it's not about the activity, but about consciousness. Varat Krishna Prabhu, you want to add something?
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Prabhu, we can't hear you.
Yeah. Varat Krishna Prabhu, please unmute.
Yeah. What I mean is that when you're working, be it in the corporate or wherever you're working, that when we have this understanding of the Bhagavad Gita of Krishna, we, sometimes we are scared of our boss that we are not meeting the targets. But in reality, when you read from the Bhagavad Gita, when you have understanding, you will only get what you deserve. You're not going to get anything more except what the result would come out, because this is due to your past activities. You're going to get that result. Your boss may even kick you out. So, because you have not met the result, which was given, or the objective which was given. Therefore, a person with Krishna consciousness is equipped with that knowledge. He is not scared to be kicked out. He knows that, okay, this can happen because I'm working in this environment where there are goals, there are objectives, etc. But maybe I'll take a job where there are things which I can perform very well. Maybe the salary is less, but I would be happy there. I won't have, to worry day in, day out, I've not met the objective. Because your objective is not based just on yourself. It is based on your team, what they are accomplishing. But you are put in that team, it's a collective karma. That's why you're there. So at the end of the day, when you can detach yourself about the results, and that's what Krishna says, forget about the results, the results I will give. But when you are fully aware of this, then you become fearless and you can operate in the corporate world. If it succeeds, well, if they want to throw you, fine. But, you're not worried day in, day out that what's happened, and I'll forget my Krishna consciousness. So I just wanted to share it from my own personal experience.
Thank you,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I was also thinking one more thing. Like when we were studying for IIT, that time a boy committed suicide. Just in front of our home, there was one boy. He was also preparing for IIT JEE. It's an entrance exam for engineering college in India. And he committed suicide. So that news was very, stressful news for many students, and they were feeling demotivated. So next day when we went to our class, our teacher took whole session, 1 hour session. And you know what he told? IIT is not end of your life. There is something beyond it. Because for students, their scope of understanding was only till that point. But when teacher told that, no, if you cannot be in IIT, you have other options. And he told like so many other options. So then students felt encouraged that, okay, we are trying our best. It doesn't happen. Ultimately, we have so many other options. Krishna is doing the same thing here. You see, he's saying, you have limited yourselves to material world. Don't do that. This world needs to be cut. But what you should aim for is spiritual world. What you should aim for is my abode. And what are the characteristics of my abode? Krishna is describing in next verse. What is the characteristics of my abode? Now he told, what are the qualifications to enter in my abode? So 5th verse is qualifications. But 6th verse is the different descriptions of the material world, of the spiritual world. So Venudhari Prabhu, can you read? Next verse is very nice verse, very important verse.
Text 6, Prabhuji.
Yes.
That supreme abode of mind is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world.
Na tad bhashyate suryo na shashanko na pavaka yad gattva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. So Krishna is saying it's not illuminated by sun or moon. Surya means sun, Shashanka means moon, and na pavaka. Pavaka means fire. Prabhupada adds electricity also, because we may think, oh, maybe no moon, sun, and fire, maybe electricity. Prabhupada said no, not electricity. So then it's illuminated by Krishna's own effulgence. It's not dependent on anything material. And that is your real home. You don't have to return back to this material world. Yad gatvana nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. When you go back, you don't have to return back to this material world. Yes, Namra Sita Mataji.
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhu, in this verse, it is written that it is stated here that when a living entity gives up this material embodiment and enters into the spiritual world, he revives his spiritual body, and in his spiritual body he can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. He can hear and speak to him face to face, and he can understand the Supreme Personality as he is. So he can understand, otherwise every time Prabhupada says it is very difficult to understand Krishna. So he can understand, means completely understand, and in what
Not
way?
completely understand. Prabhupada is saying as he is means as in the form of the Supreme Lord. The doubts which we have back in material world, those doubts are not there in a spiritual world. Now we are confused, oh, demigods are God, or Krishna is God, or the Brahmajyoti is God, or I am God. There may be many conceptions of God. But when person goes back to the spiritual world, he sees that the Supreme Lord is standing in front of him, and therefore he understands the personality of the Supreme Lord. He may not be understanding the whole energies of the Lord, but he may understand the personality of the Lord. Okay?
But Prabhu, the devotee already who has achieved that level, he knows that Krishna is the Supreme Personality.
He knows, but then he sees face to face. One thing is seeing Prime Minister on television, and one thing is seeing Prime Minister face to face. So that is the difference. So here he is having some experience of Krishna, but there he will see Krishna face to face.
Thank you.
Okay, let's read about the electric bill. Today we also received a big electric bill because it's summertime in India. So Prabhupada is saying here about electric bill. Yes, Keshav Priya Mataji, please read.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Why should you pay the electric bill? What is this foolishness? Why should you pay the electric bill? Go there and live there. There is no need of natad vasayatha. It is the spiritual world is not lighted by the sun, moon, because everyone is effulgent. Every planet is effulgent. So therefore, there is no need of these things. There is no ignorance, there is no scarcity, there is no miserable condition.
Prabhupada is saying, why are you paying electricity bill? Go back to spiritual world and live peacefully there. There is no need of electricity. There is no need of any material dependency. So that is spiritual world. So like that, Krishna has given a hint about his spiritual world in this verse. And now Krishna is saying why a living entity will not be satisfied until he reaches the supreme abode. Why living entity cannot be happy in this material world? That is what Krishna is telling from verse number 7. Somebody may say that, okay, your spiritual world is very nice. but I can live peacefully in this world also. Krishna says, no, not possible. Why? He's describing in text 7. Amol Arjun Prabhu, can you read text 7?
Yes, Prabhuji. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to the conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind.
See, suppose a child, a human child, falls in water, will he not struggle? Or a fish comes out of water, will it not suffer? In the same way, Krishna is saying, Mame vanso jiva loke. This living entity is my part and parcel. That means he is spiritual. And he is in material world, which is not spiritual. So definitely there will not be compatibility and he has to suffer. Therefore, he is struggling so hard in this body of senses, including mind. Because originally he has to be spiritual, but leaving that nature, he is struggling in the material world. So if he wants to be peaceful and happy again, he has to go back to spiritual nature. If you put that fish back in water, happy. If you take out child from water outside on the land, happy. So that is what Krishna is telling you. Conditioned soul is only suffering because of being separated from the Supreme Lord. He misuses his independence, leaves the company of the Lord, comes to this material world, and 3 modes of material nature conditions him. Spiritual nature gets covered. Whereas a liberated soul, he properly utilizes his independence. That I have to serve the Supreme Lord. And when he serves the Supreme Lord, he is connected back to spiritual nature. So there is no more suffering. Only that is the difference. If you carry on the conception of body, then one cannot be happy. So the difference between a living entity and body, Krishna is giving again a synopsis of it in the next verse. Pratima Mataji, can you read text 8?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another.
So Krishna is giving an example of Vayur Gandham. Just like air carries an aroma, like air is passing through nice garden, it will take nice fragrance. But then what happens is, if it passes through a pile of garbage, that will carry bad odor. In the same way, soul has nothing to do with the body. Just like air has nothing to do with garbage. Problem is air's association with garbage. In the same way, soul's main problem is identification with the body. So original pure consciousness of soul gets contaminated with association with this body. And then what happens? Again and again, according to different associations in this material world, it gets different bodies. That is called transmigration. This is the law of transmigration. Text 9. We'll read. Sudevi Mataji, can you read text 9?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects.
So according to the consciousness when get adulterated, contaminated with the different associations in material world, a living entity gets different bodies. Like a person who is too much attached to different sense gratification, Krishna awards suitable body for that sense gratification. Like somebody is very much attached to eating meat, he will get a body which is suitable to eat meat. If somebody is very attached to sleeping, he will get a body which is suitable to sleeping. So like that, different bodies are provided to the living entity as per different contaminations he has carried in the material world. Okay. Rasamrit Prabhu, can you read this?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Process of transmigration. Once placed in some particular kind of body, it comes under the control of nature because the body, being matter, acts according to the laws of nature. At the time, the living entity has no power to change that law. Suppose an entity is put into the body of a dog. As soon as he is put into the body of a dog, he must act like a dog. He cannot act otherwise. And if the living entity is put into the body of a hog, then he is forced to eat stool and act like a hog. 13.21.
So after one gets a body, then he is forced to act according to that body. Like even there is story where Indra was cursed to become a hog. And there was a chaotic situation in heaven because Indra is not there and Indra became a hog. What to do? Then Brahma came down to find out Indra, who was a hog. When Brahma told, my dear Indra, come back. The heaven is waiting for you. There is so many problems there. You have to come back. Then you know what Indra said? How can I leave this body? I have such a nice body. Fresh food I get every day. And you know, my wife, such a beautiful wife, such nice children. Who wife? Hog, hog children. But that attachment is there. So when one gets into certain body, one is conditioned to act like that. See, if somebody is a human being, is served with stool, human being cannot eat stool. It's impossible. I mean, it's difficult. But then certain people who have that tamas, mode of ignorance, they are provided that body. That okay, you are having that kind of consciousness, so you become a hog. And therefore, they are conditioned to act in a certain way. Now, even though these changes are happening, we are seeing so many species around us, they are forced to act in certain ways. Then also, why can't we see this? This is because of lack of knowledge. This is only the lack of knowledge. Technically, it is called avidya. Avidya means ignorance. Just like if you cover a source of light, say a lamp, with a black paper, the illumination will not come out. In the same way, the knowledge is covered by avidya. Living entity is so engrossed in material world, in a sense gratification, he cannot see what is going around, how he is being forced to act in this material nature. That is described in 10th verse. Sarashti Mataji, can you read? Verse 10.
Yes, Babaji, Hare Krishna. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can keep his body, nor can they understand what sort of body that enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this.
So this training is very important, trained in knowledge. One has to get Jnana Chakshu. Jnana Chakshu means eyes of knowledge. Then only one can see. Like I wear specs. If I don't wear specs, I can see things clearly. In the same way, in material nature, why things are happening around us, then also we are not able to see. Because we are not wearing the Jnana Chakshu. The eyes should be trained in knowledge. Then how this whole science of transmigration works, why being forced to act in certain way in certain body, all this is working under the modes of material nature. Until we don't have that kind of understanding, it will be very difficult to perceive things. Text 11. Okay, who will read? Anisha Mataji, can you read text 11?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. I'll just finish this text, then I'll take your question. Huh? Yes, text 11.
The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try to.
So in absence of that knowledge, living entity cannot see how there are higher authorities working in this world. He is being controlled. He is responsible for his karma. How he is being forced into this body. All these calculations are very difficult for a person to understand who is not trained in knowledge. Therefore, in next section, Krishna will train Arjun in that knowledge again. So that will be from text 13. Yes, Saurabh Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhuji, I have one question. For example, God says that the knowledge is through the knowledge we can perceive that it is a soul in the body. But when we say this, so how is it different from information? So what I'm trying to tell is that even if we tell people that you are soul, you're not body, then also this knowledge they cannot absorb it. So that absorption doesn't happen in a switch of second. It takes over the period of time. So that my question is that when we talk about knowledge, that means the absorption of that information is that
Actually, it's not just a dry acceptance of the knowledge, but it's verifiable knowledge. The problem is people don't go through the process to verify. Like suppose we studied about cells and atoms. We have not seen cells and atoms. But if we follow the procedure, we go to proper lab with proper apparatus, we can see cells and atoms. Then our knowledge get verified. But in the meantime, for a teacher to explain us cells and atoms, teacher may use certain analogies. And we understand the concept, we follow the theory, and then we experiment and also verify it. Same happens in spiritual life. When we talk about soul, as you were giving example of soul, we have to first make people understand logically. Like, what is the difference between living and dead? They don't have any answer. Then their intuitive understanding, which we say that he passed away, who passed away, the body is lying there, they don't have any answer. So logically, first we start. Then we come to the level of mind. Okay, you don't understand logically, but you know yourself. From childhood till boyhood, your body has changed. From boyhood till old age, your body has changed. Your own photo of 6 months, your mother has to tell that this is you. We can't recognize ourselves. If anybody's 6 months photo, somebody will tell this is you, we have to accept. So if body is continuously changing, what is that element which is same? According to modern science, within 7 years, all cells of our body change. So if all cells of our body change, what is that particular aspect which is same, which is us? They don't have any answer. So we start with this logical understandings. And when they come to the level of at least acceptance, then they follow the process of the spiritual path. When they follow the spiritual path, then automatically with the process of spiritual life, they will get realization. Soul is perceived by yogis, soul is perceived by jnanis, soul is perceived by bhaktas. So there is a procedure for it. Problem with people is when it comes to modern science, they want to follow procedure. But when it comes to spiritual science, they don't want to follow procedure. So acceptance becomes difficult. So we are not asking anybody to have dry acceptance. When Krishna is talking about knowledge, he is meaning both Jnana and Vijnana. You remember 7th chapter where Krishna is saying Jnana Vijnana Sahitam. So whenever Krishna is using this word knowledge, he means both theoretical knowledge and verifiable practical knowledge also. Okay.
Okay, Prabhu, but once, for example, if we verify this knowledge also and we got this knowledge also, then also three gunas, because see, all the work is done by three gunas as stated in Bhagavad Gita. So if the
Right.
guna, if the gunas means like many times we are not able to even implement, and we know it is correct, and we have got the realization, but the next time when we go somewhere else, we got the realization, and next time again we came back same into that anger or three gunas mode. So if we so I'm just trying to understand that if everything is done by guna and we cannot change, we cannot, so how to get because everything is done by guna, even anything
See,
we are doing.
at least we are realizing it. The treatment starts with diagnosis. At least we're realizing that this is happening to us. You see, suppose somebody was having 106 degrees fever. Now it became 105. Still he's having fever, but at least improvement. Then he gets fever every 3 days. Still he's having fever, but improvement. Then he gets fever once in 10 days. Still improvement. So think about us. We were into 3 modes, have not knowledge about it also. But at least now we have knowledge of the 3 modes. Sometimes we understand and we fight with it. Sometimes we get scum to it. But the improvement is going. So this experiment is not very small. This is a long-term experiment. And we have to understand that from time immemorial we are conditioned. So it will take time. We are in practicing stage. If we follow the process, it will take time. And once we take this time, we will see gradual improvements. So it may not happen overnight that, okay, I am practicing Krishna consciousness, 1 year over, now I will get this perfection. No. But we can at least compare 1 year before and now. There definitely improvement. Like one example I was hearing that suppose today you decide that you want to become Sachin Tendulkar, one of the best cricket men, and you take coaching for it. Best coach of the world. 1 year, you practice very, very hard. Very, very hard. Will you become Sachin Tendulkar after 1 year?
No.
Maybe, may not be. More chances? No. But in at 1 year, you will not be same person. You will definitely improve your cricket skills to certain level. So that is what we are comparing. We are not comparing with perfection. We are comparing with our current status. That, okay, we were so conditioned, at least now we are understanding. At least now sometimes we are realizing. So this is improvement which we are getting. And if we go on this path, then we can experience more and more improvement.
Prabhuji, I have one last question just before that. A real devotee like Prahlad Maharaj, Naradji, whatever they do in activity, in spiritual activity, are they also done by three gunas?
See, it depends. When Dhruva was going through anger on his stepmother, definitely it was in 3 gunas. But when Dhruva practiced Krishna consciousness and Krishna appeared in front of him, then it was not 3 gunas. So it depends on their life also, that they are in practicing stage or perfectional stage. Now talking about Nanda and Yashoda, they are pure devotees. So their all activities are beyond 3 gunas. Prahlad, he is pure devotee. His activities are beyond 3 gunas. Like Bali Maharaj, before he surrendered to Krishna, Bali is fighting with the demigods. It is definitely under 3 modes. But when Bali surrendered completely to the Supreme Lord, then he got beyond 3 modes. So even in these case studies, we have to understand when they were in practicing stage, there may be influence of 3 modes. But when they were in perfectional stage, then no 3 modes. Okay?
Yes,
You can refer
yes,
to
yes.
14th chapter, 26th verse, where Krishna tells that how by practice of pure unalloyed Krishna consciousness, one can rise above 3 modes. That means until the devotional service is not pure and pakka, we have to fall in the 3 modes of material nature. Right. Okay. Yes, Bharat Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you.
As we can, I mean, a very simple example would be, you know, that you have a very well-equipped kitchen and you have never cooked in your life and you're given everything and you're asked to cook. You know, I mean, you know, it will be very difficult for you to do something really nice or special because you don't have the practice. Though you have been seeing, you know, people cooking, you know, you just cut the vegetable, etc. Just, you know, everything is there. All these spices are there on the you know, on your shelf. But which one to take, which one to use? So when you don't know, then you cannot make a good, you know, food. So I think that's a, you know, very practical way to, you know, that we can see that, and everybody has a kitchen, and who is a good cook?
Yes.
You know, we all want to be good cooks, but it doesn't happen overnight.
So it takes time. We have to go through the process. You know, when we practicing this Krishna consciousness, we have to go through the course of this Krishna consciousness, and then we can verify the facts which we have studied. So like that, here Krishna is telling that there is need of proper cultivation of knowledge. And from verse number 12, Krishna will revise that how he is the source of everything and why living entity need to reestablish connection with the Supreme Lord. So we'll continue tomorrow. We end here for today. I request devotees to kindly read the further translation and purpose so that we can have a proper discussion tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai.